Excuse me. Welcome to South Asia. This is your presenter J. Reddy at South Asia in maps, images, icons, bringing the knowledge for the region south of Karakoram Mountains and Kanyakumari. Today's topic of discussion is Indian history. We are talking about Southern Dakkani Empire, Vijayanagara Empire, that is a very great, fascinating empire that survived from 1330s to 1630s or 40s, almost 300 years. The latter 80-90 years it survived in a diminished form. And this is the very proud part of Bharat and very great historic heritage center at Deccan and Vijayanagara Empire. When you talk about Vijayanagara Empire, I have put this presentation to put the things in a very interesting manner for our audience. I call it musings. Musing is a reflection. If you look at the empire after its demise or dissolution, collapse now in 2021 from a historical perspective or through the hindsight, what is 3 to 1? What is 1 to 3? That's what we are going to discuss about Indian history and Vijayanagara Empire very briefly in this part. You will give you a very bird's eye view of around about 1336 to 1336 to round about 1646, nearly 300 years of broader outlook of southern Dakkani Vijayanagara Empire. It was very prominent empire, very powerful, very prosperous and rich through the contemporary sources. And 3 to 1 and 1 to 3 means there are 3 dynasties here: Sangama dynasty, Saluva dynasty and Tuluva dynasties. The empire has 4 dynasties. Empire has 4 capitals. 3 to 1 means first 3 dynasties ruled from the majestic Vijayanagaram city, its capital, and also the empire's name also Vijayanagara. There is also Vijayanagara district in the eastern part of coastal Andhra Pradesh named from that, but that's very different. So we are talking about Vijayanagaram in Ballari district. Its the ruined city, a part of it now is called Hampi region. Then the last dynasty, Aravidu dynasty, there is a small typo here, it should be Aravidu. Aravidu dynasty ruled from 4 capital: Penukonda capital, Chandragiri capital, Vellore. Still, historically it's called Raya Vellore because Rayas ruled from there in their final phases. Arayavidu emperors, the Telugu emperors ruled. So that is musings 3 to 1 and 1 to 3. 3 dynasties ruled at Vijayanagaram. 1 dynasty, Aravidu, ruled from 3 capitals. Today these towns, especially Penugunda, Chandragiri, are very small when compared to large urban centers that came now, but they were very important centers of civilization, the commerce, political activity. Great decisions were made at the towns, cities, the historic capitals of the royals. Even granting of the land to build the Fort St. George in Madras, that latter took over the entire region, became very prominent. Today's Madras city, Chennapatnam, around about 12 million people or so. That origin came from the historic capital of Chandragiri, and the final emperor Sriranga gave a grant for them to build the fort and the trading post and permission for the British rulers. That is about 3 to 1 and 1 to 3. Let's go a little bit more detail. That is the Deccan Peninsula. This is the Portuguese imperialism headquarters at Goa. They also have Dayu, Daman, Ganga, and so on. And it's a Gomantak region. This is Goa. This is the Kannada coast, North Kannada, South Kannada, and this is the Malabar coast. This is Venada, Travancore coast. This is the royal insignia of Vijayanagara emperors, the boar, the Varaha. Vijayanagara Empire is mostly in the southern Bharat. The maximum extent is the Krishna River. North of Krishna River, the offshoot of Islamic imperialism originated from the Mamluk slave sultans of Delhi. Their splintered group headquartered themselves first at Yadagiri, that is Daulatabad. Later they moved their capital to Bhima Valley at Kulbaragi, Gulbarga. Later to the Balaghat region at Bidar. That is a different story. Northern part is Bahamani Empire. That is Krishna River. Most of the time this is the Doab, the land, fertile land between two rivers. Krishna River here, Tungabhadra River here. The Raichur is an important town called Raichur Doab. Raichur, Devasugar, Koppal and all those regions. Most of the time the Vijayanagara Empire resided. The Tungabhadra River is their frontier, the mighty big river, and their capital Vijayanagara resides on the east side of Tungabhadra, protected on all the sides by the Tungabhadra River. Is a very big river, at that time flowed in its full capacity because nothing was dammed at that time. So the Tungabhadra River, and after its junction with the Krishna River, it cuts the Nalamala Valley here, the ranges, and goes through the Krishna River here. That is historically the boundary, the northern boundary of Vijayanagara emperors. This is the Carnatic Plateau, Carnatic region. First capital resided in Ballari. This is the Ballari district. Northern part is the Ballari and Tungabhadra River. Then this eastern part is Kurnool district. This is the historic RayalaSeema area. Entire thing is RayalaSeema, ruled by royals, the emperors, the Rajus, the Kshatriyas, kings. That is the local name, RayalaSeema. First capital resided on Tungabhadra River in the Carnatic region, Balaghat region. After the Battle of Thallikota, that means by that time the northern Bahamani Empire split into 5 parts. 5 splinter states or daughter states or sister states. Bijapur kingdom by Adil Shahis, Qutub Shahi kingdom at Golconda by Qutub Shahis, central Bidar or Barid Shahis, and northern Ahmad Shahis at Ahmadnagar. Then the Berar region, Imad Shahis. All of them they combined and destroyed the Vijayanagara Empire at Battle of Thallikota. It's not just a normal war. That is the earth-shaking war at that time. It is not just the defeat of empire. Previously, many times the Bahamanis, Vijayanagaris, they fought, they lost one party, other party, and they went back and making the treaties, giving certain indemnity money. That happened. But after Thallikota, for 6 months, the Islamic Vandals, Zealots, descended the Tungabhadra River, destroyed every monument remaining there. Even today, the destroyed monuments, they destroyed the pratimas, the statues of the mighty, the artifacts the Vijayanagara emperor built, that is Saiful Islam, the crude part of the Islamic theology playing a role. And that part we will not cover here. That was a total destruction in a sense. When that was happened, and it's a generalismo, Ali Raya, Ramaraya was killed. Even still they have a lot of army. Their brother Venkatadri killed, and Tirumala Raya panicked. He took the surviving emperor Sadasiva Raya with him and with all the remaining money, overnight the emperor, the protector, the generals deserted their historic city where the people were not aware. People know their emperor lost the war at Talikota, that is on the Don River near Bijapur, but that happened many times. Many times during the Devaraya 1, Devaraya 2 times, they lost the wars. And the indemnity treaties were made. They didn't know what is going to happen to them. Within 3 days, 4 days, the mighty thousands of the Muslims, Ghazis, descended, crossed the Tungabhadra, destroyed the city, and the emperor meantime fled, and they established the new capital, and 3-4 years Sadasiva reigned, and he was finally, he died under suspicious circumstances, and the brother of Ramaraya, Tirumala Raya, crowned himself formally, and new dynasty started. And after the destruction of that, Bijapuris, Adil Shahis in the west, Qutub Shahis, which were north of Krishna river, they sensed the decaying kingdom start encroaching them. So, after a few years, they moved their capital again to Eastern Ghats, more secure, Chandragiri. They ruled a couple of years in Chandragiri, and at Chandragiri, the Maharaja Sriranga gave the final grant to the East India Company to build a city and fort training center at Madras Patnam or Chennapatnam. And from Penukonda, they moved. The Penukonda is in the Kolar Plateau region in the Anantapur district, east side of Pennar River, I think west side of Pennar River, Penukonda, and near Hindupur region in the Anantapur district. And the capital moved to Chittur district, now Chandragiri, west of Renigunta, at the junction of Palikonda ranges here and Velikonda ranges here. The mountains on all the sides that gave some protection to the empire, and still the Adil Shahis continued their raids on the decaying or dissolving, declining Vijayanagara Empire. All the Nayaks of especially Gingi, Nayak in the Arcot region, Nayaks of Madurai, Tirumala Nayak, all those local leaders refused to support their emperor, which was under severe attack from Adil Shahi Islamic imperialism in the west, Qutub Shahi Islamic imperialism in the east. They failed. Nayaks of Tanjavur supported him for some time. Finally, they also didn't support the emperor. They failed. That the empire in the northern frontier under attack from the Adil Shahis, Bijapuris, Golconda Nawabs, Qutub Shahis is their protection in the northern frontier. They didn't realize it, and they supported the enemies, Muslims, or stayed neutral. Finally, the empire fought, and the emperor, last two emperors, they moved their capital from Chandragiri at the Renigunta junction, at the foothills of Velikonda ranges in the eastern Palakonda, that is Eastern Ghats, again moved their capital to Vellore, overlooking the Javadi Yelagiri mountains in the south on the Pala river. In the Kolar Plateau, the Pala river descends near Gudiyatam. Those regions goes through Vellore, Katpadi, and later Arcot town, Ranipet were built. The historic city of Pallava capital Kanchipuram resides it near Madurantakam. It joins the Ganga Sagar of Bay of Bengal. And at Vellore, the capital resides. The finally Qutub Shahi general Mir Jumla came with a mighty army, and Bijapuri generals finally defeated the emperor, the last reigning monarch Sriranga, and Sriranga gave up, and finally he took refuge at Nayaks of Bednur or Keladi or Ikeri in the Shimogga Karwar region, and he was their honored guest as an emperor at Shivappa Nayaka of Keladi or Bednur kingdom. And finally the emperor passed away in the later years of 1600s. So 3-1 three dynasties: Sangama dynasties, Saluva dynasties, Tuluva dynasties. The last dynasty, Aravidu dynasty. I just briefly mentioned the emperor, most important prominent rulers here. That Sangama dynasty ruled, that's the most important, that founded this empire as a bulwark for preserving Sanatana Dharma in Deccan, South India, which was under severe onslaught from Khilji Sultan's Islamic Saiful Islam's sword arm of Islam's Khiljis and later Tughlaqs, their successors Bahamanis at Daulatabad or Kulbaragi later. Harihara Raya was the brothers Bukkaraya. He ruled for 20 years or so and consolidated put the mighty resistance against Musalman invasions, and river Krishna became a mighty separation point and came to the support of the symbolically the Hariharas and Bukka brothers established their capital and Tungabhadra sacred, and Bukka succeeded his brother. Then Harihara too succeeded. Other prominent rulers were Devaraya I, Devaraya II. He ruled 1400 to 1420 or so, the great ruler, and again second 1420 to 40s or so. The empire declared, then finally overthrown by other dynasty, by Saluva Narasimha, who is a mighty warrior. At the time the Bahamanis ruled from Goa to Bandar, and Muhammad Gawan's time, and Saluva, the generalissimo, Narasanayaka, Saluva Narasimha, and took over the empire, dethroning the last monarch, Proudadevaraya, and established a new dynasty, Saluva dynasty, Saluva Narasimha. His son and younger son was infant, and he was under the protection of other general and Narasanayaka, and finally the young infant king was deposed. Narasanayaka formally took over, and Thuruva dynasty ruled from almost like 80 years. The greatest ruler is Krishna Devaraya, the son and successor of Narasanayaka, and after Krishna Devaraya ruled for 30 years or so, 1530, almost at the same time like Mughal ruler Jahiruddin Babur passed away. He also passed away in the same year or so, and his successor Achitaraya, and during the Sadasivaraya's time he was the de facto de jure ruler, infant, and his uncle Ramaraya, who is itself the son-in-law of Krishna Devaraya, was de facto ruler, generalissimo, under whose regime Sadasivaraya's time and Ramaraya's time the mighty battle of Talikota was fought, Rakasgi Tangadi, and near the Don River. And after the crushing defeat they received, the last dynasty, Aravidu dynasty, started with Tirumala Raya, brother of Aliya Ramaraya, and succeed. The empire was maintained with some form for nearly 30 years by Venkatapati Raya, and who gave a mighty, he resisted the onslaught of Bijapuris and Qutub Shahis, and after his death again the went into civil war. Southern Nayaks, especially Nayaks of Gingi in the Arcot region, Nayaks of Tiruchirappalli, Madurai, and Nayaks of Tanjavur refused to play the ball, support their emperor, and even opposed him. And finally, the Adil Shahis, Bijapuris, and Minzumla from Hyderabad came and conquered all this, their force, and Dippo, and the emperor fled to Keladi Nayak's territory and lived there for a couple of years and passed away at the last Vijayanagara emperor. So that is Indian history, Vijayanagara empire, musings 3 to 1, 1 to 3. Three dynasties: Sangama dynasty, Saluva dynasty, a short dynasty, Tuluva dynasty, where Vijayanagara empire reached its peak. Three dynasties ruled from historic city of Vijayanagara in the Karnataka plateau on the bank of mighty Tungabhadra river, is a perennial river. And 1 to 3, the last declining dynasty, Aravidu dynasty, ruled from 3 capitals in the Carnatic region, that is Penukonda in Anantapur district and Chandragiri in today's Chittur district, Vellore, today's North Arcot district or Arcot region. And let's go and see the empire in actual the maps, and we'll get a better appreciation of the mighty empire. The 3 to 1, 1 to 3. We are looking at the Google map here, and we have and Tungabhadra river here. You have Hospeta, Tungabhadra river is dammed, and the historic Hampi town is east side between the mountain ranges. The mountain ranges gave a lot of protection to the city and the mighty river, and Anagundi, Kampili and Kamalapur, all those regions. After Battle of Thalikota on the Don River near Bijapura, Kushtagi, and the empire collapsed. That is the first capital. Hampi, you can see, and the Krishna river is in the Ballari district, the Sandur mountains, former princely state of Sandur, and Tirumala Raya, the brother of Ali Raya, who survived, moved the capital to Penukonda near Panukonda, Hindupuram, Penukonda. Here you can see the Penukonda near Hindupuram. Either Penna river, you have a Penukonda on the mountainous region. Penukonda, the mountains give protection. Penukonda region in the mountainous area in the Anantapur district, southern part during the last dynasty's time. Then they moved the capital further due to the invasions, and finally they set up their capital. All these like Chandragiri, Udayagiri, Penukonda were historic forts actually, but original capital resided on the Tungabhadra river because it was a mighty capital, and Bahamanis in the north and the splinter states couldn't touch them that much. So near Renukunta there is a Chandragiri, Tirupati here. We have Chandragiri here, you can see the Chandragiri, still the fort, Raja Mahal, Rani Mahal, you can see the historic fort where Arayavidu emperors resided and tried to control the southern Nayaks, and Nayaks of Gingi, Arcot, Nayaks of Tanjavuru, Nayaks of Madurai, Tiruchirappalli, and so on. That was the other capital. As the pressure increased on the empire, the emperor further moved into the Pala river. You see the Vellore somewhere here, you can see Arcot region, and this is the Vellore. Vellore is also called Roya Vellore. Historically, still a lot of people in the old generation call it in our area Roya Vellore. There is an important hospital in our village. People used to go there. That's why I remember the name Roya Vellore. The Christian missionaries of Christian imperialism started their conversion process called proselytization. This is called philanthropic proselytization is the banner in which they provide these services. And Roya Vellore, anyway, the important town where the empire resided in the Palar Valley. You can see the Vellore and Katpadi junction. Arcot later established Ranipet, Vallajipet of Arcot, Nawabis here, and Vellore and those regions, and Kanchipuram, the historic, and the Palar river, the Palar Valley, Jolarpeta, and those the railway lines later British built. And you can see Chennapatnam originally started as a fort, Fort St. George. The grant was given by the declining Arayavidu monarch Venkatapati Raya, who resided and his capital near Tirupati Chandragiri. That is the thing, and we are looking at a little more different perspective here. The historic Vijayanagara Empire, 3 to 1 and 1 to 3. And here in the Krishna Tungabhadra river hospet, and we will be seeing the same Vijayanagara Empire headquarters, so eastern side near here the Hampi, the Vijayanagaram, their capital, and they moved their capital to south of near Indapur, Penukonda here later. The second, the last dynasty in the Hindupur region, and finally they moved their capital to Chandragiri, and the southern side of the eastern Ghats. You see the Tirupati here, you see the Chandragiri here, Swarnamukhi river, Chandragiri, and later the emperors, they moved their capital to the declining years to Vellore in the Palar Valley. And after the Bijapuri, the Nawabs, Bijapuri Sultans and Qutub Shahi Sultan finally attacked and they defeated them, and the empire collapsed. And the emperor went and resided as a honored guest with Nayaks of Ikkeri or Kelladi in this region, Shivamogga region. That is in brief about the today's presentation, the historic Vijayanagara Empire, musings on the Vijayanagara Empire 3 to 1, 1 to 3, three first dynasties, Sangama dynasty, Saluva dynasty, Tuluva dynasty, ruled from Vijayanagaram city, today's ruined Hampi, on the banks of river Tungabhadra. Last dynasty, Aravidu dynasty, Telugu dynasty, ruled from the three capitals, one at Penukonda in Anantapur district, and other capital Chandragiri in Chittur district. The last capital Vellore in the Arcot district. So Arcot district, Chittur district, Anantapur district, Bellary district, all those districts, the historic RayalaSeema hosted the royals, the royal families and dynasties, the generals, the intellectual thinkers, which made a major prominent decisions at that time. Decision to give the grant to the East India Company Madras, which later subsumed them eventually. Thank you very much. This is our presenter J. Reddy and South Asia in maps, and we will continue to bring this fascinating knowledge to you in the future presentations. And we appreciate your subscription and further encouragement. Thank you.